said I was not going to say that today. I literally just sat here for 3 minutes thinking, I'm not going to say, hey guys, today. I'm going to say, good morning, friends, or something different. And the first thing out of my mouth, hi guys. So it is what it is, I guess. You get the hi guys this morning. So happy Friday Eve. Here we are on another Thursday. So happy to be here with you guys. We have a really fun project today that is actually a project request. This is one that a lot of people have asked about, and so of course we are more than happy to deliver. I love it when you guys give us project ideas because sometimes I can get stumped, right? We talked about this a little bit last week. I get a little bit of creative block, so it's nice when you guys make suggestions for us for projects to put together, because it kind of takes some of the hard thinking out of it for me. You know, you just kind of point me in a direction and then I go from there. So this is a fun one. This is a really fun one. It's easy, but that doesn't take away from the beauty of this. It's really beautiful, and it's one of those where if you've seen the teaser picture, it's one where you can change the look up a bit. If you don't like tons of layers, you can take away, you can always add to it. There are lots of different ways you can go with just the base design that I'm going to show you guys today. So really cool. I want to take a second to say hey to everybody. There's Joan. Hey, Joan. Stacia, girl, you crack me up. I just finished reading your post that you posted yesterday. Like, I don't know, Facebook timelines are really weird, like the timing that things show up. So you had posted it yesterday about pictures of smiling animals. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I almost made Diet Coke come out my nose over that one. That was so funny. Rita, hi. Hey, everybody. Lena, Tina, so glad to see everybody. Betty. Oh, so, all right. Today's project, like I said, this is one that was requested. This is all about chain reaction, and we're going to be using some cage beads with this. But this is kind of out of the box for some people, and that's what we're going for, right? We're going for taking a leap of faith with your creativity. The new year, starting things out and doing things differently, kind of trying new things. And so before I get started with the project, I just wanted to say, in relation to this, how, what's the word I'm looking for? I am grateful. That's the word, but it's not necessarily the right word for this. So let me I'll just share. I'll do a little word vomit here. So last week on Sara Ellis Designs on Friday, we finished out the week. Was it last week? I think it was, where we did the wire wrapped project. This one, I'll show it to you because it's still sitting right here. This one, right? With the wire wrapping. You guys, oh my gosh, you guys have posted so many pictures of the ones that you did with your own wire and your own beads, and every time I saw them, I would get chill bumps. Like, I'm so excited to see something that I put out there into the world come back like that. You know what I mean? Because this was a project that I was a little iffy about. I was kind of afraid to share it with you guys because I thought, you know, I don't want them to be afraid of this kind of wire weaving. And you guys, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. If you have not been over to the Secret Stash site or are not a part of the Secret Stash group, go join the Secret Stash group. Number one, the community there is amazing. There is so much support and love. I really feel like we're a family there, and the feeling is unlike any other feeling that I get from other Facebook groups. I would say the only Facebook group that I am a part of that is very close to that would be the Silver Silk group. And part of the reason that that is that way is because of Nilay's heart and the way that he is, but also because it is a lot of the same people. So we have just this amazing community, and so pictures like that get posted. You guys will try out the projects that we do, and then you'll post them and show them, and it encourages other people to try it. It's a chain reaction. Fitting, right? See what I did there? It's a chain reaction that happens where I will show something, somebody will try it, they'll post it, and then somebody else will go, I can do that too. And the creations that you guys come up with are so very different, but so beautiful. It just makes me feel so good. I'm just filled with the warm and fuzzies when I see a project that I have put out there into the world come back in ways that I never expected. So I just want you guys to know how much I appreciate you and how much I appreciate our secret stash group, our community at Jessie James Beads. You guys are amazing. So take that and run with it. Use that energy. Use those projects to step out of the box and try new things this year, right? I don't like to set New Year's resolutions. I set intentions, which I've already broken, mind you. I was supposed to get a juicer and eat really well, and I literally just shoved a Belvita in my face and downed Diet Coke. So I'm not doing good with that. But creativity-wise, now that's something I think that if we set our intentions on, we can definitely follow through with, because we have each other. We have this great support system to encourage and uplift and, and toss ideas off of each other. So it's really great. It's really great. I appreciate it. And I think that it's a good way to start new things for this year. So we're going to try new projects. We're going to deep dive into color. We're going to talk about chain like today. We're going to talk about tension beads and wire wrapping. And so I encourage you with every project that comes up, if you try it, even if you try it and you think it's a hot mess, take a picture of it and post it on the Secret Stash group. Post it, because you're going to get feedback that you never even expected, right? You're going to get feedback. You're going to get, advice if you need it, and you're going to be uplifted. And at the end of the day, feel really, really proud of yourself. So, all right. Excuse me. On the same kind of note here about taking a leap of creativity and trying new things, I do want to encourage you guys. I'm counting down the days, checking them off until we go to Tucson. So if you're still on the fence about Tucson, guys, come on. Come and go to Tucson with us. It's going to be a wonderful experience. I was actually talking to my bead society last night about it. I've got some takers there. I cannot wait to get them hooked up with their tickets and their travel and that whole bit. It's going to be a really great experience. If Tucson is on your bucket list, now is your opportunity to take that dive, right? Because we're going to learn lots of techniques. We're going to implement techniques that maybe you know but need to brush up on, and we're going to turn them into some wonderful projects. You're going to walk away from 3 classes with 7 pieces of jewelry. Do the math there. That's pretty good, right? And not only that, but you're going to be surrounded by the beautiful desert and the Tohono Chul gardens. We're going to take a guided tour of the gardens and have some great food, breakfast. It's kind of a brunchy thing, and some wonderful lunch. And then, of course, we all get to be together, which is probably my most favorite part of the entire experience. And then you'll have a little bit of time, right, to check out what else is going on in Tucson, because at the end of January and the beginning of February, that's where everybody kind of converges on the and comes together in the Tucson area. So there is a lot of going on and a lot to see. So if you can come and do that. Grab the ticket. If you need any help with the travel arrangements and things of that nature, reach out to us and let us know. Send the Jessie James Beads Facebook page a message, and we can try to work some things out. We were talking about maybe putting together an econo van to transport people from one place to another. So we're here to help you guys, because without you guys, we wouldn't have an event in the first place, right? So we want to make it accessible for everybody. I know that it is an expense, but I think that we've got it. We've kind of whittled our way down to make it so that it is an affordable trip to go to. So if you're interested, let us know. And come and hang out with us. It's going to be a really great experience. And you're going to hear me talk about it from now until then. So just tune me out if you're tired of hearing about Tucson. But I can't express enough how excited I am to go and be with you guys. It's going to be such a great experience, and I think a great learning experience, not just for you guys, but for me as well. So I'm looking forward to it. All right, so today's project, like I said, we're talking about chain reaction, and chain reaction is one of those things that you guys absolutely love. I've got some here. So mine is in the silver color with this beautiful crystal bead that's in it, and the crystal bead has like that shadow kind of AB shadow to it, which is really, really stunning. It does not come across nearly as pretty in this lighting. And cage beads, which are also a staple at Jesse James Beads. It's one of the products that everybody knows. You can get cage beads from Jesse James Beads, right? You see them out, you see them on people, and you're like, I know exactly where you got those. Cage beads they're just awesome. There's no other way to explain the cage beads. They're phenomenal. They're just these little cagey goodness. And what's super cool is that you guys, they come in like the mini mixes, and they come in the design elements, and you can buy them individually. And some of them have colored stones in them, and some of them have beads in them. They're just so fun. So fun. And I feel like they really kind of speak Jesse James, right? When you see them, you're like, you know immediately. So the Chain Reaction is one of those things that you guys get a lot of. It is a very, very popular item. It shows up in the Magical Mystery Bead boxes quite frequently, and is sold, of course, individually over on the website. Very, very fun stuff to work with, but sometimes you guys get stumped with it, right? You get the Chain Reaction and you're like, okay, this is beautiful, but now what do I do with it? I'm going to give you an idea of what you can do with it. This is going to be fairly easy. However, I used four Chain Reaction to create this necklace. So keep that in mind. One of these will make a lot. 4 of these will make a ton, right? And I still had like enough probably to make a whole nother Chain Reaction with my scraps, which I have saved, okay? So we are gonna cut some of it apart. We're gonna put it together. We're gonna make a nice layered piece, and it's gonna be kind of interesting before we get down on the mat, because the necklace is actually bigger than the mat, so we're going to work through it on the mat, but you're not really going to get to see the full results until we get it up here and put it on. I actually have a large bust. Who's giggling? I know you are. So I have a larger bust to put this on so that you can kind of get an idea of the full length of this, and then we'll talk about ways to change it up as well. So let's get down to the bead mat and let's get started, shall we? All right. All right, let me adjust the lighting just a bit. And you guys, my bead mat is so dirty. I'm so sorry. I should have shaken it out before we got started, but you know how it goes. Okay, so, excuse me. With your Chain Reaction, you can get this in bundles. You can get it individually. And like I said, you can find it very often in your Magical Mystery Bead boxes, which is so fun, right? And probably the #1 way that people will wear their Chain Reaction is just as it is. And that's probably my favorite way to wear it because it is so pretty all by itself. And there's enough of it to create a really beautiful necklace all by itself, right? So it comes on a split ring here at the end, and I just take the split ring off. And actually what you can do, you can leave the split ring on one side and just add a clasp to the other side if you want to. Or if the split ring is too big, you can take the split ring off of both sides and then just add a jump ring and a lobster clasp or any of your favorite clasps to this. And you've got a wearable piece of jewelry immediately, just like right out of the gate, right? It's beautiful because the chain portion itself is always stunning. They're all different, which I love. And then you do have it broken up with some wire wrapped beads in between there, which add just like this very elegant addition to it, if you will, right? So the one that we're working on today, like I said, it's got this beautiful clear bead with that AB kind of shadow to it. And then all of the links here are simple loops with a silver colored bead in between them. So this is an easy one to work with. Not that any of them are hard to work with by any means, but as far as the links are concerned, this is an easy one to kind of shorten up or lengthen once you've cut the pieces if you need to. But I did want to show you, let's see if I can find it. Okay, so on a lot of the Chain Reaction, and I hesitate to say all of them, I don't know for sure, but if you will notice, between the wrap on the bead and the little link here in the chain is a very small jump ring, okay? It is it's an oval shaped jump ring, right? This is where I like to make my cuts. So instead of opening up the links or anything like that, I try to avoid that as much as possible. And if I'm going to cut my pieces of chain reaction to make them shorter, I try to find these little places in the chain to make those cuts. However, once you make that cut, you can't undo it, okay? So definitely keep that in mind. Be mindful of the length that you're working with, where all of the little jump rings are that are in the chain reaction design, because they will fall in different places in different chain designs. But if I'm going to make any kinds of adjustments, I do it at the little jump rings, okay? Just so that I don't mess up or destroy the integrity of the rest of the chain. However, like I said, with this chain in particular, you can always open these loops here with your pliers, but not all of the chains are that way, okay? That just happens to be this style. Okay, so that being said, when I'm working with it, I always find where the little jump rings are, and then I pay attention to the placement of the crystal beads that are on the chain as well, because I don't want my my beads to fall in places in my design where I can't see them. So a lot of times I will kind of lay out the chain reaction first and kind of get an idea of, number one, the length of the piece that I'm going to need, and a couple of other things to take into consideration. Do you want to start your piece of chain right at the bead, or do you want to start your piece of chain at the beginning of the chain section, right? That's going to make a difference in where it is you're going to cut your piece apart. That's also going to make a difference in what piece you're left over with, right? So if I want this piece in particular, and this is actually what we're going to start with, excuse me, let me pull up the picture on my computer just so that I can get a good idea of it as well. I don't want to stray from the original design if possible. Okay, so in the original design, I wanted 3 of the crystal beads to be in this order, right? I want one of the crystals to be at the bottom instead of just the empty chain being at the bottom, right? And having the 2 crystals on either side. So take that into consideration when you're laying everything out, kind of looking at it, okay? So what I want for the first piece of my drape is going to be, I want to start with the crystals. So that's going to be my attachment point. I want the 2 crystals and I want this crystal on the bottom. So all I want out of this piece of chain reaction is going to be this section. So take into consideration where the best place is to make your cut, because you'll notice on one end of my chain reaction, it ends in chain, and on the other end, it ends with the crystal. So if I start with the crystal end, I don't have to waste any of the chain, right? So I only have to make one cut, and I still have a long length of the chain left over. All right, so I'm going to come in with my cutter tool. You don't have to use a flush cutter here. Any cutter tool will do. I'm just going to come in, finding that jump ring, that little jump ring between that crystal bead and the chain section. I'm just going to snip that off, and now I have the very first drape for my necklace. Now, you're looking at this going, okay, that's really, really short. Yes, it is really short, but we haven't created the length portion of this yet. We're going to get there, okay? I just wanted to show you first and foremost what kind of my formula, sort of a formula, of how to cut apart your chain reaction would be, because you do have to take all of those things into consideration: where you want your bead to hang, where you want your chain sections placed, and what is the best way to avoid waste with your chain reaction pieces, right? So that you're left over with links that you can still use. There's nothing worse than being left with a link that is like this long and you've only got one, so you don't even have enough to make an earring with, and you're like, darn, if I had cut this in a different place, I could have avoided that. So definitely take all that into consideration, right? This is an easy design, but there's a lot of thinking through this as far as the design, what's the word I'm looking for? As far as like the concept of design is concerned, right? You don't want to just jump in there and start cutting willy-nilly. All right, so this is going to be the first drape in my necklace. So we're going to start here. I'm going to sit this piece over to the side. You can see I still have tons of this. And, excuse me, we're going to work on the length portion of this, and then we will work in the rest of the drapes, okay? So for the length portion of this, all I have done is taken one of my pieces of Chain Reaction and I have cut it into two, and I made sure that they were matching pieces so that where I cut, I had a chain, a bead, a chain, and a bead, right? And you can see where I've connected these with just two 6mm jump rings and a lobster clasp. This is going to be the back of the necklace, clearly. This is going to be the part that's going to come around your neck. I took into consideration where these beads are going to fall. Where are they going to show? This bead is going to be towards the front, so this is obviously going to show. The beads back here are not necessarily going to show on the front of the necklace, but should you have your hair up, or if you know, whatever you've got going on back there, if your hair is shorter, then you're still going to get the addition of that bling, right? Those beautiful crystal beads in the back, okay? All right, so to separate these two sections out, we're going to put together some of the awesome cage beads. And I've got one already done, and just to show you the pattern, and then we're just going to put these together using some 6mm jump rings. So the cage beads are another one of those items that you kind of have to look at and decide exactly where you want your connections to be, and that's because of the geometric shape that is involved here. I like all of mine to line up the same way, so you can see when I'm holding them facing forward, or this way as they're going to hang, all of the squares, right? They're all hanging so that there is a square facing forward. That is all going to be determined by where you're going to place your jump rings. If you don't care and you want them to kind of be willy-nilly and very organic, then it's not going to make much of a difference. But if you want them to all kind of hang in a uniform manner, then you definitely want to take that into consideration when you are attaching all of your jump rings. So I'm using a smaller cage bead, the medium size, a smaller one, and then another medium size, and we're going to place those in between the length of our chain up here on the back and then our first drape. So let's bring in our 4 cage beads and let's get our jump rings together. And really, this is super, super easy. If you can open and close a jump ring, then you're good to go, right? Okay, so I'm just going to bring in some jump rings we've got here. And hi, Lynn. How are you? Good to see ya. All right, so I'm going to use 2 pairs of pliers to open and close my jump rings, always opening your jump rings in a lateral fashion, right? Just this kind of twisting motion. You don't ever want to take your jump rings and grab them and then just pull them apart. In fact, I'll show you. Just because I have plenty of jump rings to go around, I'll show you what you don't want to do. So when you open and close your jump rings, don't do this, right? Don't pull it apart, because what happens is when you pull it apart like that, to attach it to something, when you go to put it back together, you've completely ruined that shape. Like, it's never going to be a nice circle anymore. That is, it also has marks on it where I marked it up with the pliers. So definitely take that into consideration. Okay. So here we go. Opening a pair of a jump ring, right? With that twisting motion, you can see what that looks like on the top. So you can see that separation of the wire there. And I'm going to take one of the smaller cage beads, and I like to hook it together where 2 of the squares come together and there's an X on the bottom, right? Because I want all of mine to be hanging in the same direction. So just going to hook that through right there. Okay. So now when it's hanging forwards, you're going to have that nice square facing you, right? And it really kind of gives that, you get to see the whole cage bead for what it is in that direction. Just my opinion. All right, so second cage bead coming in with one of the larger cage beads, and I want to try to find that same X and hook it on to the jump ring in the same manner. So there's the X on the bottom. I'm going to go through both X's, right? Well, I'm going through both of the squares and hooking through. Okay, so now I'm going to come in and close that jump ring back. Make sure that I've got a nice closure on that. It's nice and tight. Nothing's going to slip through. Try to get that jump ring as seamless as possible. All right, same thing. Just opening another jump ring. And this time we're going to use the small one. Turning it over my hand, finding the X that I want, hooking it through. And now coming to these through, find the X on the bottom, and hook it through. All right, closing that back. Okay, so there's that. And we're going to add one more of these just for good measure. Opening up my jump ring, finding the X on the bottom of that one that's in the last one in our little section here, and then looking for a good place for that one. Finding the X and closing it back. All right, so now we have a section of cage beads. They're all going to kind of hang in the same direction. They're going to hang the way that well, are they? No, actually, I hung two of these. One of them. Okay, look, so this is a really good example. Look at the way the second one from the top, right? See how it's hanging? I accidentally got that one hooked on there the wrong direction, and you can see the difference that it makes in the pattern, right? So I want to go back in and change the placement of this one, this third one that I'm hitting with my ring finger, right? So let's take that apart. Easy peasy. It's a really easy fix. It's just a matter of laying it out, kind of looking at it, and holding it up, and, whoops, making your adjustments. So find the opening of that jump ring here. Okay. So now I want to look at it again. Make sure that I get this right where I want it. I want to hook it through those two. And then we'll close it back and we'll look at it before we add that smaller one to the top, just to be sure that I got it right this time. Okay. Yeah. So now when I hold it all out, now I've got all those squares in a nice little row, which is exactly what I was looking for. Okay. All right. So now we want to add the small one back to the top, being mindful of where it's going to go. It's kind of awkward, really, the way that I am holding everything so that I can show it to you. That's kind of making a little bit of a difference in how easily I can see what I've got. All right, so now, well, what have I done this time? Speaking of holding it in an awkward manner, I definitely got that one looped in a funny way. All right. There we go. Okay. So now when I hold it up, I've got everything going in the right direction. That one just, for some reason, I still have it hooked weird. What is going on? Okay. One last try and then we're moving on. I may need to hold this up closer to my face. That's probably part of the problem here. Now, if I didn't get it that time, I'm giving up on it. All right, we got it finally. Just took me a minute. It's it's far away from my face, and dare I say, I cannot see it when it is down here on the mat. And I'm not going to say that that's because I'm old, because I'm not. All right, so that is ready to go. So we've got 2 on either side, and we just want to attach these to our 2 pieces of chain. And so, of course, yeah, I am a little OCD, Joan. It's so true. But I just, you know, I want it to hang a certain way. I think all of us jewelry makers are that way, though, right? If one little thing is not right, you will stress over it until you get it fixed. Okay, so I'm just going to open up a jump ring. Same thing. I'm going to run this through the top of my smallest cage bead, and then I'm going to hook this to that wrapped loop that's on the bottom of my crystal over here on one side and close that back. Okay. And same thing down on the bottom. I'm going to add another jump ring, and then I'm going to add it to that first piece of chain that we cut. And I'm going to hold it up, take a look at it, make sure that I hook that jump ring in the right place, because clearly I will stress over it the whole time if I don't. All right, so not only are the cage beads adding length, but they're also adding some glamour to this as well. Not that the chain reaction wasn't glamorous enough by itself, because definitely the addition of these beautiful crystal beads makes it very, very glamorous. But you add in the cage beads and it takes it to like this whole new level. It really reminds me of some red carpet jewelry that I just recently saw. So if you're looking for easy jewelry that you can put together with chain and you're not using a whole lot of other techniques other than opening and closing some jump rings, this is definitely a project for you, right? And this is a great project, easy as it is, to also add to your booth as one of those pieces that draws people in, right? So when you're setting up a craft booth or you're trying to sell your jewelry at fairs and at shows, it's a really good idea to have some spectacular pieces, some real showstopper pieces that are at the front of your booth to draw people in, but then also sitting towards the back of the booth so that people that are outside walking by and they're getting sort of that long shot of what your booth looks like, that piece may catch their attention and bring them in that way. So there's 2 good places as far as placement is concerned when you're working a show, where to put some of these exaggerated, really beautiful showstopper pieces to draw people into your booth. So take that into consideration when you're making pieces like this. The placement of these in your booth is going to make a huge difference, I promise you. Okay, so what we have so far is just this really beautiful necklace, right? All by itself, with just the addition of the cage beads, we have a full necklace. It's ready to go. You could wear this and it would be amazing. Yes, Kelly, you hit the nail on the head. Eye candy. You want the eye candy to bring the people into the booth. So you could stop here if you wanted to, but because we love extra, 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 we're going to use even more chain reaction to add some more layers to this and some more cage beads, because who doesn't love the cage beads, right? All right. Elise, you're so right. Use lights when you can. If you can put a light on a piece like this, wow, it's going to make a huge, huge difference. All right, so what we want to work on next, I am scooting this up a bit, okay? What we want to work on next is the next drape in our chain section here. So I have pre-cut the chain section, but I do want to show it to you so that you can see what our starting and our stopping point is on these, or this next layer down, right? So I'm taking the same kind of element that I used in the first drape, and that is I want the 3 crystals. So I want the singular crystal to hang down here at the bottom. It's going to hang directly underneath the crystal bead that's on this top drape. And then I want the 2 crystals over on this side to be further down a bit. So that means that I have added, or not added, but I have cut my chain reaction in a place so that I still have a chain section on either side. They have both ended in the exact same way. I cut them at one of the jump rings right before another crystal bead on either side so that they are matching pieces. And all we're going to do to add this is we are going to add a jump ring. Now, this is what is going to be kind of interesting about this and what is a little bit different, what makes this design in particular a little bit different than what you might be used to. So I'm going to open up a jump ring and I'm going to thread that on to the last little loop here that is on this end of the chain reaction. And coming up here where my first drape of chain is, you can see where that jump ring is attached to the cage bead. Now, a lot of times you are inclined to open that jump ring up again and just thread your chain on so that you've got two pieces of chain hanging from the same jump ring. I don't like that. There's a couple of reasons why I don't like that. One being it makes it really, really crowded. Okay, you're going to crowd out that jump ring and it tends to make things look messy when you do it that way. So instead of opening a pre-existing jump ring with a drape, I'm going to add a jump ring to that jump ring. So this jump ring that I've added to the end of the chain, I'm going to hook that onto that jump ring instead, right? And I'm going to close that back. This is going to add just a tiny bit of length here, but it's also going to make sure that things kind of stay separated nicely. I'm not crowding out this bead that is here. I'm making sure that this chain is going to stay in its lane, so to speak, and I'm not overusing this jump ring. This single jump ring, if you put 6 layers of chain on a single jump ring, you're crowding out your design and you're also creating some stress on a jump ring that whether you have a good, really strong jump ring or not, it's still creating some weight there, right? Jewelry is not heavy, but gravity is not your friend in any situation. So if you can avoid the jump ring mess, definitely avoid it. So I'm going to open up another jump ring. I'm going to do the same thing over here on the other side. I'm going to loop that on, or hook that on rather, to the end of my chain and now to the jump ring that's over here. So again, we're not opening a jump ring that already exists in the piece. We're just going to loop onto it. And we are going to continue that with the rest of our layers. So with each jump ring that I add, my next layer of chain, I'm going to attach it to the jump ring that I just added, right? So it's going to be a step down from that first jump ring, and we're going to attach to the next jump ring in line. It's just going to kind of help everything lay the way you want it to lay. You're going to avoid the tangle that kind of tends to happen in multi-layered pieces. Okay, so our next drape, so we've got 2, and again, you could stop here if you wanted to. If 2 drapes is all you want, then this is a beautiful piece. You could stop, but we are going to add another layer, and this layer, I'm going to pull everything up here a bit, okay? I know that as we work along, the piece is going to kind of disappear upwards in order to get most of it all in the shot. So we've got the 2 layers here. Now we're going to add our next layer. Our next layer, instead of having a crystal bead at the bottom, I want a section of cage beads here at the bottom, okay? And luckily for all of us, I already put these cage beads together, so we don't have to sit here for 5 minutes and watch me stress over the placement of the cage beads. But I do want to show you what the pattern is. So we've got the small, medium, small, medium, small. Okay, so I'm using more than the ones that were in the top portion of our necklace. And as you can see, I lined them all up so that those squares are all facing forward, right? Okay. And so I'm just going to lay that here. That's going to be the bottom of our drape in the 3rd layer. So we have 2 pieces of our chain reaction. And for these 2 pieces, I cut it so that there is a crystal bead on both ends. Okay, so we've got a long section that's going to hang here where there's going to be a crystal at the top. And let me move you if I can. Try not to show too much of my dirty desk. So the reason that I'm bringing this up here is because I want to show you this part here. So you can see the reason that I chose the chain to start with the crystal here is because we had a crystal to start, then just a plain piece of chain was our starting point for our next drape. So our next drape is going to have a crystal here. If you did all 3 crystals right here, it would hang really, really funny. You could definitely do 3 pieces of chain here and it would be fine. But if you're going to use more than 1 crystal bead to start your next drape, just be sure that you're spacing them out a bit so that they don't crowd each other, just like the jump rings, okay? So we've got the bead, chain, bead, chain. We've got the bead down here at the bottom. I'm going to move you back over just a little bit. And we're just going to attach this to a jump ring. And we're going to do the exact same things. So Leslie wants to know, how many of the full chains are you using for the project? I have used 4, but I have leftovers. So when we get finished, I want to show you what's left over, because I feel like I had enough left over. Had I cut these in a more efficient way, I probably could have gotten away with just 3 chain reactions for this. So I want to show you what my leftovers are when we get to that point. Okay, so I've hooked my cage beads down here. I'm going to go ahead and hook them to the other strand, and then we will make our attachments up here at the top with our jump rings as well. Okay. So you are most welcome. Excuse me. Okay, so again, moving back up here to the top a bit, where we are. And I'm going to hook on the jump ring, and then just like with the next layer, so we're going to attach to the second jump ring that we added. So we've got that first initial jump ring, the jump ring with our second layer, and I'm going to hook this jump ring to that one. Okay. I think this is a really good project because even though it's easy, we're talking about some design concept and kind of working through design issues in a way that I feel like we're kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty of some things that maybe get overlooked in some of the other projects that we do, right? So the placement of your jump rings, the placement of your chain, all of those things go into, all of those details matter and go into the outcome of what your jewelry piece is going to look like. So we're kind of constructing and deconstructing all at the same time. Okay, so now we have our 3 layers, and again, if you wanted to stop here, you absolutely could. This is a beautiful necklace all by itself, but we're going to go one step further and add a 4th layer to this, just because I love it. But you can see now the cage beads are going to hang really beautifully down here at the bottom underneath our 2 stepped down crystal beads, right? So instead of a single crystal down here, we've got this row of the cage beads. And of course, gravity is going to help this to all hang really, really beautifully. Okay, so our last layer is, I'm going to change this layer up just a tiny bit. I'm going to move this up a bit too. I'm getting it kind of out of the way. Now all you're really going to be able to see are the last 2 layers. That's okay. I'm going to show it to you when we get done. You'll get to see the full thing, right? Okay, so for the last layer, I want, again, this crystal to be at the bottom, right? I really, I've got a twist here. Hold on, let me get it untwisted. I really want to try to keep it as uniform as I can, but it still kind of has, it feels like, you know how a messy bun, people have these messy buns and it's just thrown up there and it looks like it took absolutely no effort. They just tossed it up there and it looks perfect. But you know in reality that their messy bun took like a whole hour. What a weird comparison. But that's kind of how I feel about this. I want this to look like we just threw it together and easy peasy, but in reality, we're really taking into consideration the placement of our crystal beads as they're coming down. and taking into consideration how gravity is going to react with everything, because a bead at the bottom point of a drape is going to hang differently than just a chain drape is going to hang, right? The gravity is going to pull in different places. It just makes it look a little bit different. So play around with chain that has beads on it, these chain reactions, because they do give a different look depending on where you let gravity take control of your bead, right? Okay, so last layer, I want it to just be this long piece of chain. I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the crystal beads on here, and I'm starting and stopping with a crystal just for this section, because this section is going to be a little bit longer. What I am going to add to this is 2 more cage beads, and I'm using 2 of the medium cage beads. We're going to add those on either side. Those 2 have already been connected. We're going to connect to these 2 with some jump rings, and then we're going to add a longer layer above those that is just another short piece of chain, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So one thing at a time, okay? So we have the long layer here at the bottom that's actually coming out of the shot. I apologize. Let's attach our 2 cage beads, and then we will make our connections, and I will show you the choice I made in the way that I cut my chain reaction for the next little short section. Well, actually, let's do this first. So again, just finding the X on the bottom of the cage bead, coming over to the other one and finding the X on the bottom and attaching those 2 together. Double checking. Yes, they are going in the direction I want them to go. And now I'm going to add a jump ring to the top and to the bottom. We're going to do the bottom one first, though, because we're going to talk about that next little chain section here in just a second. So go ahead and attach that to the chain. Okay. And same thing on the other side. Opening a jump ring, threading it through, adding it to our cage beads, and attaching that back. Okay, so the cage beads we've brought out into the outer edge of our piece, so they're still working, right? We didn't just leave them out of this last layer. I thought it was important to kind of bring that design element out to the outer layers. And so now, to attach all of this, we're going to use a shorter piece of chain. Now, take a look at where I've cut the chain reaction for this. I cut the chain reaction so that right next to my cage bead, there's one of the crystal beads on the chain. So I'm going to use another small piece of chain, and I want it to kind of mirror this. So instead of there being a section of chain here, right, I want there to be another crystal right here. Just kind of changes up the look just a little bit. So we're going to start with the crystal, and then we're going to end with the chain. So again, up at the top, going back to the top again, sorry, that will make this piece end in chain instead of another crystal bead, right? So that we haven't crowded out up here, right? So we're going to need 2 jump rings to make those attachments. And then we'll actually be finished with this. I'll show you my scraps, and then I'll put this on a bust so that you can see it. And we'll talk a little bit more, and then I'll let you guys go for the day. All right, so hooking that on, and I'm going to hook right at the bead. Close that back. Okay, and now another jump ring. And again, this jump ring is going to attach to the last jump ring that we added. So hooking that to the piece of chain, and then coming up here. So now we've actually got 3 jump rings here. So we're going to attach to that 3rd jump ring so that it's a nice step down and nothing is too crowded. Okay. Same thing on the other side. Trying to bring this mess down here so you can see it a little bit better. It is definitely a mess when it's just laying flat, that's for sure. Okay, so we're going to open our jump ring. thread that on to our chain reaction, or I'm sorry, our cage beads, and then onto our short section of chain reaction. We're starting right at a bead. Okay, close that back. And then our very last connection is from the chain to that last jump ring that we added. So opening up, jump ring, hooking that through, and then we are hooking on to jump ring number 3. Hold on, let's see. Make sure that I get this in the right spot. Right there. And then we're going to close that back. And that's it. Now, I know there's no way you can see this on on the bead mat. So I'm going to put this on the bust in just a second. But before I do that, I want to show you what kind of waste that I had. And it's not really waste, because you can always use the rest of your scraps. Scraps, that's a better word, okay? So the scraps of the chain reaction. This, I started with 4 chain reaction, but I ended up with this really long section, right? I've got another fairly long section, and then I do have some smaller chain pieces. So in reality, I think that if I had just thought this through just a little bit more, I probably could have gotten away with only using 3 of the chain reaction. And so if I were to do this design again, I think I would start with 3 and try to work it out as far as where I make my cuts on the chain reaction, so that I don't end up with these leftover pieces. Now, that's not to say that having the leftover pieces is not good. It is. It's great, because I do have long pieces that I can incorporate into other pieces of jewelry, and I definitely could make a bracelet out of this. I could make a 2-strand bracelet out of this. I could use the smaller pieces and some more cage beads and make matching earrings to go with the necklace that I just made. So your chain reaction scraps, don't toss them. Always keep them, because you can use them for so many other things. And there's such a unique chain that it's definitely worth keeping your scraps, right? Even if you only have a section like this is going to change up the look of anything, whether this is just a short section in a bracelet, or, you know, a short section in the front of a necklace or whatever. Definitely keep your scraps. Don't toss them. Don't decide that they're not worth anything, because they definitely are. You can incorporate those small pieces into all kinds of other designs. So super, super cool. I was glad to have leftovers to show you, but I do think I probably could have gotten away with just the 3. All right, so I'm going to flip you back around, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. Try to not to blind everybody here. And I put it on the bust here so we can kind of talk through a little bit. All right, so this is what the finished piece looks like, and it's actually longer. You can see it comes all the way down to the bottom, so it's even longer than the biggest bust that I have on hand. It would look really good on a dress form to really get like the full look of this, but you could definitely get away with less, and you could totally take this to even more, right? So stopping here, or going through the whole 4 drapes would make an absolutely beautiful necklace, no matter how many drapes that you added to this or took away from it. Also, you could get really, really full with this. So the spaces in between, you could add your Jesse James beads in between each drape. I made the drapes long enough from each other so that that was a possibility. You can shorten your drapes so that they're closer together if you want to. So shortening up your chain pieces will make everything a bit shorter. If you're not into really long lengths, you can still do a draped necklace, just in a shorter style. But adding your Jesse James beads in between here, check glass beads would be really pretty, or even a different color of chain reaction, whether it be in the silver tone or in the gold tone, or with a different colored bead on the chain reaction. Mixing up your metals and mixing up your chain reaction pieces would create a completely different look. I was thinking this would look really amazing in different colored crystal beads and different colored cage beads, like the ones that have the colored bead inside them. You could really have a very colorful and beautiful necklace. So a lot of options here. I've given you the base design, which is a showstopper all by itself, but then you can really kind of tweak this and turn this into your own creation. And just like I said about putting it in your booth, this is one of those, you want to put it on the edge, you want to put it far to the back so that it can be seen in two of the most prominent places to really draw people in. They see it and they're like, oh wow, that's amazing. That's what's going to get people into your booth. That's what's going to get people spending their money on your beautiful creations. And right, that's what we want. Set your intention for the new year. More money from my craft booth, right? All right, you guys. So it was fun. It was fun. I feel like we took something small. I know I already said this. I'm like the queen of repetitiveness, but you guys forgive me for that. I appreciate that. But I feel like we took something that was relatively an easy design. There's not a lot to it. We're just opening and closing jump rings and cutting chain. But we really talked down and dirty about placement and where things are going to fall. This in particular right here, I hope this is number one thing that you take away from this when you're making your drapes. Don't crowd one jump ring. It just doesn't work, and it doesn't hang nicely unless you've got a huge jump ring. If you've got a 10mm jump ring, you can fill it all the way up, but then that jump ring actually becomes part of the design. I don't want my jump rings to be part of the design, so I've taken, even though I've added more of a finding, it's actually taken away its hiding, right? It's weird how that works. So play around with things like that. Use jump ring placement. I feel like, you know, there are a lot of tricks, small things that are like that we forget to talk about. So I hope that I've given you some food for thought for today and some inspiration to take with you onto the rest of your jewelry making journey for today. What am I forgetting? Oh, tension beads. Tension beads are beautiful, right? I love tension beads so much. And so right now, if you use the coupon code TENSIA, all one word, you can get a pair, pick them out, add them to your cart, put TENSIA in the coupon code box with your $39 order, grab yourself some tension beads to bring home with your chain reaction. Yeah, and your cage beads. Some tension beads added to that would be absolutely amazing. So just keep that in mind, you guys. And if you're still thinking about Tucson, reach out. Let's talk about it. Let's powwow. We totally want you to come to Tucson and hang out with us and make some fun jewelry. So if you need help with that, let us know for sure. And that's going to be it for me today, you guys. It has been fun. I love these sessions like this. I thought this was very informative. I, you know, kind of taught myself something, I think. I definitely learned that I'm very OCD about the cage beads. All right. So you can catch me tonight at 6:30 on the Silver Silk Facebook page. We are doing a really fun project there. We're using some pearls and some Jesse James beads and some galaxy wire that is stunning. Love galaxy wire. It's one of my favorite things from Silver Silk. And then you can catch me tomorrow on Sara Ellis Designs at 1 p.m. I don't even know what we're doing tomorrow. I haven't even gotten that far through my calendar yet. So it will be a surprise to me as it will be a surprise to you. Have a wonderful rest of the day, you guys. And I will see you guys hopefully later. If not, same time, same place next week. Bye, guys.